Yeah, welcome. Thanks for everybody for coming out. It's interesting how much college has changed. This used to be the huge mega day, and now it's just kind of the end of the last part of the cycle. But do have some kids we want to talk about that we were able to add since the last time we discussed. So Ashton Bethel Roman is a wide receiver that we added from Ridge Point High School down in Missouri City, Texas. Kind of got involved with him in December. Tried to get him over the line with us, couldn't. He opened himself back up through the December-January period. We were able to get back involved with him when he became back available. We're able to get him signed. Really excited about him. I think he's got good size. He's got a big catch radius. I think he's a dynamic playmaker with really elite speed. And so I think he's going to add something to our wide receiver room that we're really excited about. Robbie Bourdon is an offensive lineman from Collierville High School in Collierville, Tennessee. Obviously a kid that we were very familiar with, had committed to Coach Cushing and I back at Duke. Decided to postpone his signing in December. We were able to get him out in January for a visit and able to get that one over the line. I think he's an extremely athletic offensive lineman. He's a lacrosse player, has really good feet, has a really big frame, and I think he projects to be a really good offensive tackle for us, and so really excited about that. Terry Bussey, we're going to call him an athlete from Timpson High School in Timpson, Texas. I think, when you look at him on tape, he's an absolute elite athlete. He's a football, basketball, track kid. There's not a whole lot this kid can't do athletically. Has had about as productive a high school career as you could think about. Was Mr. Football in the state of Texas as a junior, was a state champion as a senior, plays quarterback, plays DB, gets the ball in his hands, and for us, he's going to come in his corner for sure, but will certainly have a role with the ball in his hands as a return game, as a guy that we can utilize as an offensive specialist some in certain situations, and so really excited for him. And then just to backtrack on one more, a kid that's in our program now but didn't sign by the last Wednesday was Tristan Jernigan. Tristan's a linebacker from Tupelo High School in Tupelo, Mississippi. He's a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He's a really physical striker at contact, and he just has a really high energy presence about him, which you really like at the linebacker position. And he didn't sign till the Friday of the first period, and so we didn't have that one at the last press conference. But he's been with us working out, training, and so excited with him. Excited about some of the things that he's been able to do to this point. And then just big picture on the transfers, right? And so since the last time we got together, we've added 22 transfers to the program that'll be available this spring. Excited about adding pieces kind of at every position across the team. That was something, you guys had asked, are there certain target positions? And we just wanted to go out and find value really across the board, and I think we were able to do that. They're all here now working out and have been for the last few weeks. I think they've integrated really well into what we're trying to do, and certainly expect all of those guys to play a large role moving forward into the fall for us. And then just a couple people to kind of thank as you just kind of go through like what really happened. We got hired at the end of November. We got some people in here in the middle of December, and we really, through the Christmas time, had about 2-3 weeks to get all of this thing rolling. And right, so obviously hats off to our staff, our coaches, all of our assistant coaches, analysts, graduate assistants, the whole crew that had to dive right in to do all of this as fast as we did. You don't sign, we essentially have signed 25 kids since the middle of December if you count the transfers, right? And so that is a really large endeavor that we've kind of taken on to restructure and reshape this roster. And then specifically to Derek Miller, our general manager. I think him and his team in the scouting department have really done a really good job of identifying guys, locating guys, evaluating guys, streamlining the process so that we could be extremely efficient, because you don't have a lot of time to waste ever in the transfer portal or in the end of this high school recruiting period, and we've been really good there. And then a shout out to Kayla Hudson, our director of recruiting operations, and Kiana Jasper, our director of on-campus recruiting. And so Carly Stewart was with us. She got us through the original signing date, and then she decided she was going to get out of recruiting for a little while and kind of go into some other parts of her life, which we certainly appreciated and had a lot of respect for Carly from my time here last time, but Kayla and Kiana then had to step into that role and in the same kind of light, put together recruiting operations for, I think it's probably been 30-something official visits that we've had in the last month, if you're counting the transfers, right? And so, that's an enormous task that they've kind of undertaken, and I think we've done a really, really good job of getting the ball rolling in recruiting. And so, happy with what we've been able to do since the last time we got together in terms of building this roster to where we needed to be heading into spring. And so, from there, I'll kind of open it up to questions.
Down front, Brent.
How exciting is it to have a guy like Terry Bussey, who you mentioned using him in the return game, but could you also see him playing some receiver at some point? I guess you don't want to put too much on his plate too fast, but the idea that he could be going both ways for you.
Yeah, both ways all the time I think is hard, but when you have a kid that's as dynamic of an athlete as he is, we've got to find ways for him to impact the football game. And I think that's kind of what we talked to him about through recruiting was, we're going to utilize you in ways that you can impact the football game. And obviously some of that will be in the return game. Some of that is in spot ways on offense. We anticipate it being in a large way on defense, and then kind of see where it goes from there as he grows.
And I know you said this is going to be a Mike Elko defense, but I'm not sure we've asked you yet about Jay Bateman and Jordan Peterson. Of course, we're familiar with Jordan, but could you speak to those two additions?
Yeah, for sure. Jay's a guy that I worked with for the first time back in 2004 at the University of Richmond. And so Jay and I have known each other for about 20 years. Really excited about getting him on board. I think he's got experience in the SEC, experience with the league. He's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to defensive football. It's been really fun kind of collaborating and building what this defensive package is going to look like moving forward. And so, obviously I think there's a strong base and starting point of what we want it to be, but Jay's coached an awful lot of football at a really high level. And so certainly appreciate and add all of his input and value, and he'll take it over and run with it moving forward. And then, we were able to add Jordan Peterson, which it's always great when the most qualified person for a position is also an Aggie, right? And so Jordan's obviously got a ton of respect throughout the industry for not only the job he does as a recruiter, but also the job he does as a coach and an X's and O's guy. And, you go through a long process, and, you never want to just hire an alum for the sake of doing it. But when you can get a guy in here that this place is really special to, and he also is the most qualified guy, I think that's a phenomenal combination.
To the left, Sam.
Hey, Mike, two for you. First, with Terry Bussey, how much work did you guys have to put in to get him to the finish line? Because I understand he was committed, but when you guys got here, obviously the staff has changed over a lot. So I would imagine the relationships he established, a lot of them probably were with people who are no longer here. So how much effort did it take to kind of get that recruitment across the finish line?
Yeah, a lot. I think when you're talking about a kid that's coveted by the country, who I didn't meet until I got hired, and a lot of the guys on this staff didn't meet until we got hired, committed or not committed, you have a lot of work to do to get that kid and his support staff and everybody around him comfortable, really no different than him or Ashton for that matter. But I think there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of people that go into it. There were certainly people on our staff, Brian Gross-Armiento, Rohan Gaines, who had previous established relationships with him from their time here. It helped getting Holman Wiggins in, who had a relationship with him from his previous stop, and and then just others who didn't know him at all until we got hired here, but understood the priority that he was and how important he was to getting him and keeping him part of this class.
And you mentioned at the top Derek Miller. I'm curious, when I understand he came with you from Duke. What is it about him that has, I guess, enabled you guys to do the work that you guys have done in the portal? And I guess how valuable is he to getting this personnel operation? Yeah,
I think he's critical. I think that role is really important because, when you think about it, like, you're recruiting a portal that has, I don't know, what is it now, 2,000, 3,000 kids in it, and you're trying to sort through all of that and trying to find the value that makes sense for you and fits you and can add and contribute, and how you organize that process with his team and the people that go through that is really, really important. I think, when you look at just the overall operation of, okay, now we've got to go out and acquire these players, and how are we going to do it, and the logistics that go into all of that is tremendously in depth and detailed, and he does a phenomenal job with that. And then I think, him and his team are just phenomenal evaluators, right? And so what they bring to us generally is high quality. And then as we review it and we go, it just saves you an awful lot of time because you trust that group and you trust what they're doing. And so, yeah, I think, and it's another guy too, just so you guys hear the story, because we don't get to talk about this stuff. Derek was our student assistant when I was at Bowling Green. So he was a student at Bowling Green when I was the defensive coordinator, and he was just working in our office and was a young kid, and decided to get into this recruiting world, and was with Austin Thomas a little bit in his early days, and then got a chance to go out and start running offices himself. And so he was a really easy one for me to target when I got to Duke, and he did a great job for us at Duke, and he'll continue to do a great job for us here at Texas A&M.
Coach, we'll go back to the far right side, Ben.
Coach, kind of going off of Sam's question, for Terry and Robert, how much did it kind of feel like you're like starting a whole recruiting process over? But I know that obviously Terry had the ties to the school here, and he had the knowledge of the school, and Robert, it was kind of inverse. He had the knowledge of you guys as a coaching staff. How much did it kind of feel like it was starting from square one compared to maybe building off of some of that pre-existing?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's a lot of it's square one. And I think if you put the grand scope of this together, right, we're way behind on the 2025 class, right? So if you can think about what that translates to the 2024 class, when you get here, you got to go a million miles an hour to have any shot at catching up. And it goes, you're right, it goes both ways, right? With Terry, he could probably tell me everything I needed to know about Texas A&M. He had to learn all about me. And then for a kid like Robbie, it's the other way. He had to learn all about Texas A&M, and he had a trust and a relationship with me and Coach Cushing. And then you take a kid like Ashton, and it's none of it, right? Ashton hadn't spent a ton of time in and around A&M and didn't know any of us, right? And so that's literally starting from ground zero, which is probably why we weren't able to get it done in time for the first signing period. And you get fortunate and lucky that he decides to open his recruitment back up, and Arkansas lets him out, and he becomes available again. But it's not an easy situation when you get dropped in at the end of a 2.5-year process, and you've got 2 months to do what most people did in 2.5 years.
And then for a guy like Nick Scorton, who was as productive as he was probably going to be nationally coveted, obviously has local ties here. Is there any extra, or I guess special strategy you do to try to make sure, sell him on the idea of this is home, and maybe more so than just a kid from Texas or Houston or something?
No, I think the attraction that we have to kids in the transfer portal, I think, is a respect for who we are as coaches. And I think, it's different recruiting. I mean, you talk about high school kids, it's a lot about relationships and development, and where you're going to take them and how you're going to help grow them as young men. And then it gets into the football part of it. But really at, 15 when it starts, 16, 17, they're thinking about the football side of it, but it's not really the biggest piece of the puzzle in a lot of ways. When you talk about transfers, it completely flips, right? Relationships matter, connections matter, those things are important, but there's a piece of this thing that is okay, I know what college football is about now. Tell me how you're going to make me a better football player. I'm getting close to the end. I want to become an NFL prospect. I want to become a guy that has an impact on this game down the stretch at a really high level. I know what this feels like when you start talking about college coaching. How are you different? And so I think it's a much different approach in that regard. And so I think Nick and a lot of these guys gravitated to a group of coaches that coach at an elite level and have a really good understanding for how to get people developed and better in the game of football, right? And I think that is why we were able to have some of the success that we did in the transfer portal.
Coach, we'll stay back behind the lights, the left side, Nicole.
Hey, Coach, I know when we talked to you last, you're really fresh on the job in that signing day, but now looking at the full list of players after this signing day, do you feel kind of like a sense of relief knowing who's on there? Or I guess you said you're behind on 2025, so maybe not.
No, so we got in, so we got in after the bowl game as a staff. I think we started in the office about December 30th. And on about January 2nd, we looked at a depth chart magnet board. And we had a lot of work to do to get where we wanted to go before spring ball. And, I think that portal period could have gone a lot of different ways for Texas A&M football. And so had you caught me at any point during that stretch, I don't know what look I would have had on my face, but it probably wouldn't have been a great one. I think where we sit now, we feel really good about where this roster is. I think we've been able to fill the roster. I think we've been able to kind of make up for what we talked about was a little bit of a smaller recruiting class that we added. We were able to go out and find an awful lot of value that we added across the board in a lot of different ways. And I think when you look at this football roster today, you feel as though we've got a team that can now go to work to kind of become what we think we're capable of becoming.
Second row on the left, Mike.
Building on that a little bit, how do you guys go about deciding what scholarships to use in the portal, what scholarships to use on the high school side with so little time to kind of figure that out?
Yeah, I think if you look at what just happened, it's probably a little bit of an anomaly. I think, transition creates a lot of chaos, and that's just the nature of it. And so, when you get here, it's just you're trying to hold things together through transition as best you can. I think we did about as good as we possibly could have at that. And then you sign what you can without, extending on guys that you don't think make a ton of sense for you in the long term. And then inevitably that leaves you short if you, in my opinion, if you do it right. And so then you've got to go fill that. And I think that forces you probably to go a little bit larger into the transfer portal than you would ever want to. I hope that we never have a situation where on January 2nd I'm looking at the same type of depleted roster ever again in my life. But it was what it was this year, and so you have to address it. I think we're able to address it really well.
And then when you've gone across the state and to CHSCA and stuff, what's the reception been like, and what have they asked from you, or what do they want from Texas A&M?
Yeah, I don't know that they've asked. I think it's just more been me communicating on what we want to provide. I think, we're the flagship program in this state, right? And if we're one of those programs, there's a certain relationship that we need to have with the high schools in this state, right? And a part of that, and I've said this to all of these guys, a part of it is recruiting for sure, but a part of it is just being a resource for high school coaches in the state of Texas, right? And it's part of our obligation to pay it forward, everything that we've gotten, that we can go out and we can talk to high school coaches and talk about X's and O's and develop young coaches and bring coaches out here in the spring and have them see practice. And I just think that's part of being one of the premier programs in your own state. To me, that's what you have to do. And so that's been the message. I don't think it's necessarily been them asking of us. I just think it's been, this is what we believe Texas A&M football should be about moving forward.
Second row on the right, Carter.
Mike, I know you guys are far off from the fall, but how comfortable are you being over the 85 scholarship limit? And is that kind of the future of where things are going, since probably expect some spring departures?
Yeah, I just think it's such a fluid roster situation nowadays. I think if you look, I think everyone anticipates somewhere between 8 to 12 departures post-spring ball. That just seems to be the natural lay of the world right now. And so, in an attempt to try to be at 85 when you need to be at 85, it's not the easiest thing in the world, right? And I think, every cycle has been different. I think last year the spring cycle wasn't as prominent with impact players at times. That could completely change this cycle. Who knows? Because this is all still new and fresh to everybody. But we certainly didn't want to go into a situation where post-spring ball we were having to fill an awful lot of spots, because I don't know that there's a lot of natural attrition that happens post-spring ball, right? That doesn't seem like a natural time for people to decide to switch rosters.
I also want to ask about Tommy Moffett and just the impact you've seen from him over this winter workouts, and have any newcomers maybe caught your eye?
Yeah, I don't. The caught your eye question I always struggle with because I'm going to name two and then 20 people are going to be mad at me. So I'll politely decline that question for the rest of my time here. But the point of what is going on in there, I think Tommy Moffett's having a huge impact on our program right now. And not only Tommy, I think we have an elite strength staff. I think top to bottom, what we are doing in that room right now is operating at a really, really high level for a group of guys that has not been together much. Some of them I think have some ties together to old times at LSU and to Tommy, but a group of 5 guys that has never really worked together to be in sync right now the way they are for our room to be operating and functioning at the level that it is right now. I think our kids all feel that. I think, they appreciate, like, it's becoming more and more about kids today feeling as though what they're doing is working and helping and improving them, right? That was always the model of the NFL, right? Was if you could help them get where they wanted to go, they would listen. If you couldn't, they wouldn't, right? And for a long time, college wasn't like that. It was just, we just listen to our coach because we have to. I think one of the things that has reshaped a little bit with all of the portal and all of this stuff is you have a little bit of that NFL feel where if kids feel like what they're doing is helping them grow, they're operating at a certain level and excited about it. If they don't, it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not really into this. And so I think what you're getting is our kids and our energy around this building is at a really high level right now. And that's not to compare it to anything. It's just right now it's at a really high level, and I think that's good.
4th row on the left, Rob, then down front, Travis.
Howdy, Coach. Tell me about Robert, 6'6", 305-pound offensive lineman that can play lacrosse. I don't know if while you were at Duke, I know lacrosse is big at Duke, if you ever got a chance, or did you look at his lacrosse film at all during the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think we went out and kind of watched him play lacrosse in the spring because during the evaluation period he was playing lacrosse, and so this would have been last spring. Yeah, I think it's dangerous when there's a 6'6", 305-pound running around with a long pole playing lacrosse. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, that's the really long one that you can whack people with, that you play defense with. But, I think, there's a certain level of athleticism you need to play tackle in this conference. I think everybody knows this. The elite edge rushers in the country, for the most part, are in this league. And, it's a good starting point to say that you've got the feet and the athleticism to run around and play a game on 2 feet at a really high level, not just be an offensive lineman. And so, I think that's one of the things that really attracted us to him at Duke. And certainly, as we project him here, feel really good about it as well.
Front row right, Travis, and then Mark.
Coach, when I know you talked about the different signing periods change, but when there is just kind of one guy left on the board that everybody has their eyes on, and you're able to get that guy like a Bussey, does that add anything extra to the program beyond just the talent that you got with the kid?
Yeah, I mean, I do think this, and I promised him I would do this for him, so I'm going to do it right now. Like, let's just be careful a little bit, right? He's a really talented player. He's a really great athlete. Let's not put too much on one young man in any way, shape, or form, right? We're really excited that he's coming here. We put an awful lot of work in to get him here. He's going to play a huge role for Texas A&M football, but I don't want to stand up here and talk about one kid and put that type of pressure on one kid. He's going to come here and he's going to be a great Aggie, and we're really excited about that.
And with Ross going on to Ohio State, when did you kind of learn of that, and what in your mind makes for a good athletic director in this landscape of college sports?
Oh, I'm gonna punt that one and let the people who care about that one talk about that one. I got enough things on my plate to worry about. Right now I guess I can't get fired because I technically don't have a boss, so that's a good place to live in.
Okay, we'll go Mark, and then Sam, you'll wrap us up. Okay, a couple more here. Go ahead, Mark.
Coach, you signed 5 corners in the transfer class, and now Terry's going to be primarily a corner. Can you kind of walk through the evaluation process and what made you go after those guys?
Yeah, we were so short numbers, and it was it was interesting because it's one of the things that caught us real quick. There was obviously some attrition into the portal, but we felt like we were trying to replenish parts of the roster that we didn't even lose a ton of guys. And so the secondary was way short from a number standpoint on where, in my opinion, you would want the roster to be. And so we felt like in order to play football the way we want to, multiple packages, multiple defensive groupings, to be able to match up with some people, there were just a lot of pieces we needed to add to that group. And so it was obviously a priority. And then I think we were able to land a large part of it, right? And that plays a role too, because, we were never going to dip. We weren't looking to just bring in bodies, because I don't think that helps or benefits anything that you're trying to do, is to just fill a spot with a number. And so, we identified some guys that we thought could add a lot of value for us, and then we were able to land a really high percentage of that group from the transfers to Terry. And so I think now when you look at the depth chart in the secondary, you see a lot of options, you see a lot of versatility, you see a lot of different types of bodies back there, and a lot of guys with a lot of different skill sets that I think now as a defensive coach, and certainly Coach Bateman can look at and go, okay, we can do some different things with this group and what we want to do.
Second row left, Sam, and then Brent, you wrap us up.
Mike, we spent a lot of time talking about the roster, off-season workouts, coaching hires. How much time have you been able to spend on ball, and when, or how much are you looking forward to spring to get to some ball?
Yeah, the biggest thing is our kids. Like we had a team meeting yesterday just because I felt like, okay, like I do have a team here, and it would be nice to stand in front of them and coach them. And I think that's probably the hardest thing about the transitions are, you transition into the first cycle and you're ripping and running to get to the first signing day, and then you disappear for the winter break and you don't get to see them, and then you come back and we had a couple days with them, but then again you're right out for the January period. And so if you think about it, I've probably only been in the office, maybe 5-6 days since I got hired, where like I'm literally just here to be around the guys. And so I think you look forward to that. Obviously I think we want to get together as a staff and start talking football and kind of tightening up what our packages look like and what we want to do. And we've been able to get that ball rolling this week, which has been good. But more than anything, you just want to get around your players and start the mental process, the building of character, the building of relationships, the connection, like all of the things that go into making a football program what you want it to be. You can't do that stuff remotely. And so it's good to get back into it where you can be around those guys every day.
All right, Brent, wrap us up.
So I take it they didn't ask you to be on that AD committee then?
No, talk to Mark.
There you go. Bryce Foster has been a guy who's excelled at two sports here. What is your approach on that in terms of him participating on the field part of track and field as well?
Yeah, I mean, listen, college, you want kids to be able to achieve in things that they're passionate about and things that they're good at. And we've been fortunate here with Bryce now, with Devon Achane when he was here, that there's been some kids who had the ability to be talented football players and also have a huge impact on the track as well. And so we're in the field as well, in the field events. And so I think part of this is they are still college kids, right? And if college kids have the ability to do it and they're mentally inclined and willing to do it, then you want to give them those opportunities. And so, we certainly support Bryce and what he does over there. And we'll continue to do that with kids moving forward if it fits on both avenues.
You all named April 20th as a spring game. What are your expectations? Those can be, fun days for fans and everything. What are your expectations for your first spring game?
Oh God, I have no idea. I haven't even had a practice yet. Shoot. Yeah, my expectations
It can be a good recruiting day.
Yeah, no, my expectations for this place are always the same. I think that there's a passionate fan base that we have that gets really excited about Texas A&M football. I would hope that the things that have happened in the last 2 months have kind of rekindled a lot of that energy and passion. And I would hope that as we head into the spring, that there's a lot of Texas Aggie fans that want to come out and watch us play football. And the spring game on April 20th at 1 o'clock will be a great opportunity for them to come out and do that. And but I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I know this place will be rocking when Notre Dame comes here. So I don't feel like I need to dare our fans to get out here at any point between now and then. We will show up as needed, when needed, and so I appreciate our fan base for that. And so I haven't really thought much about it because, I know they're here when we need them. So I certainly would anticipate we'd get a good turnout for the first spring game, but if they're saving all of their energy for Notre Dame, I'm good with that too.
All right, Coach.
We got one more in the back.
Oh, sorry, David.
Yeah. He's been trying the whole press
I'm
conference.
sorry. Usually he's
thank
up
you.
front. Yeah. Go ahead, David.
Mike, overall, when you look at the entire roster, like top to bottom, size, speed, how do you see them? How do you think that they look as a football team? And then combine that with the mental approach of the guys you're bringing in.
Yeah, I think that's the part that we have to get into now, right? And so I've watched a handful of workouts and had a handful of team meetings, but not nearly enough to sit here and speak really educated on that. And that's the next part of this, right? That's, we're going to take these 4 days and kind of breathe and get back and see the family a little bit and do those types of things. And then we're going to come back here Monday and it's going to be a 4-week roll with all of that stuff, right? To get into the meeting room with these guys, to get in front of these guys, to get out to the workouts with these guys, to start putting these guys through some agility football stuff. And I think that's the part that we have to transition to now. And I think that's the part that I'm really excited about. I think getting around this team now, we have a team, we've put it together, we've got the pieces in place. Now we've got to build it, right? And we have from now until, the opener to get it built to the level we need it for us to go out and have the season we want to have. And so I think that's now where we're headed.